So now we come to the Belle of Amherst herself. Emily Dickinson was born and raised in Amherst, Massachusetts. Her father had briefly served as a congressman from Massachusetts. To say the least, she led a fairly secluded life. What makes that idea not just interesting, but also significant, is that so much of that seclusion, that isolation, really, she imposed on herself. Nearly all of her friendships came by way of correspondence. I suspect, were she alive today, she'd have a lot of Facebook friends. By and large, she withdrew fairly early on from what most people would consider public life. However, one can argue that her life gave her plenty of incentive to do so. The people she loved most tended to die in clusters, and there were several stretches where she was almost constantly mourning for somebody or other. Her mother was gravely ill with, frankly, sometimes bedridden with any one of a variety of medical problems, both real and imagined. This was particularly true from 1855 until her death in 1882. That left Emily to shoulder the bulk of the housework while also caring for her father and younger siblings. Mind you, she did briefly attend Mount Holyoke Female Seminary. It didn't go any too well. Dickinson bristled at conventional conservative environment that she found there, especially regarding the school's strict Christian ideals. As you likely saw in the reading for today, a couple of major themes that captured her interest and never let go were death and immortality. You know, a former professor and mentor of mine, the late great Dr. Richard Harp, used to say, there are some people who don't have ideas. Ideas have them. I would suggest that Emily Dickinson fits into that category. Disagree all you want, just don't hit me, alright? Also, she was deeply concerned with religion and spirituality. Moreover, she's examining, challenging, and even playing with poetic conventions. Only about 10 of Dickinson's poems were published in her lifetime. Some of those were almost certainly published without her permission. All of them were heavily edited to bring them in line with readers' expectation regarding capitalization and rhyme scheme. Indeed, that's all we'd have if Dickinson had gotten her way. She made her younger sister Lavinia promise to burn all her papers when she died. By all accounts, Lavinia was getting ready to do just that when she found a stash of about 1,800 poems Emily had written over the years and decided they'd do humanity more good as literature than as kindling. In 1890, 4 years after Emily's death, the first collection of her poetry was published. By 1892, the collection was already into its 11th edition. Emily Dickinson has never been out of print since, y'all. That original edition from 1890 secured a place for Emily Dickinson at the table of American literary giants that she's never really even come close to relinquishing. That collection itself was edited by two of her acquaintances. Thomas Wentworth Higginson, editor of the Atlantic Monthly, a prominent literary magazine of the day, and Mabel Loomis Todd, the wife of a professor at Amherst College, who also just happened to be having an affair with Emily and Lavinia's older brother, Austin. Like I said, Higginson and Todd edited the 1890 collection, and y'all, when I say edited, I mean edited. In a nutshell, they revised or even rewrote certain lines or stanzas to bring the capitalization and rhyme scheme in line with the poetic conventions of the era, something which Dickinson herself purposely avoided doing. Moreover, They removed virtually all references to specific individuals, especially to Austen's estranged wife Susan Gilbert Dickinson, who happened to be just about the absolute best friend Emily Dickinson ever had. Just as importantly, and even more controversially, they gave a title to every poem, the first line of the poem in almost every case, in another nod to 19th century convention. Dickinson herself only gave titles to a handful of her poems. Now, as I see it, on the one hand, what Higginson and Todd did worked like a charm and made Emily Dickinson a megastar for pretty much as long as poetry is read by anybody anywhere. On the other hand, by conventionalizing the great majority of her poems, they really kind of undercut what she had in mind. Again, disagree all you want, just don't hit me. I imagine we'll get some really interesting discussion on these types of issues. A lot of writers and critics have asserted that Dickinson's poetry is depressing or even downcast. Gwendolyn Brooks, who we will read later on in the course, labeled it as, quote, all gloom and doom stuff, unquote. And, well, there's probably some truth to that. Still, if you think about her life, especially depending on how you look at it, all the time that she either had to spend or chose to spend grieving for loved ones, it makes some sense. Moreover, a portion of her output came during the Civil War, which I'm certain didn't cheer her up. On top of that, remember that she was a woman writing at the time when women weren't really supposed to do that. You may have read or heard about Virginia Woolf's idea, expressed in A Room of One's Own, that a woman needed a room of her own as well as a large income of her own in order to be a writer. In other words, that's what it took to be free from the domestic responsibilities expected of a woman in those days. And Woolf was writing several decades after Dickinson. A story about Dickinson that has circulated pretty widely over the years is that from time to time she would pantomime for her nieces the act of locking her door to her room, even occasionally saying to her favorite niece, "It's just a turn, Maddie, and freedom." Let me go ahead and suggest here that whether you think Dickinson's poetry was all, quote, gloom and doom or not, think about her narrators as outside observers, looking in on the situation around them. It seems to me that a narrator can express a wide variety of emotions in their commentary: gloom, hopefulness, disappointment, excitement, and many others. You may have already found a number of those in Dickinson's poetry, maybe several of them within the same few lines. I know I certainly have. Once again, thank you for your time and attention. It's onward and upward for us. Next time, we'll delve into the short fiction of Mark Twain.